Lonely single dad discovers heartwarming transformation when triplet girls whisper, "Be our dad." In the quiet town of Maplewood, where the sun dipped below the horizon, hiding the day's regrets, Mark stumbled through life like a man stuck in a heavy fog. In his early 40s, he wore his grief like a worn-out coat. It clung to him, suffocating yet familiar. Every morning he woke early before the sun rose, kissed his son Tommy good morning, and set off to the factory where machines roared and life felt like a series of repetitive tasks. After that, he'd rush to the convenience store, shuffling between the aisles, trying to stay afloat while carrying the weight of 2 jobs and a shattered heart. Tommy, just 8, was his bright spark. With sandy hair and a grin that could melt the coldest of mornings, he filled the void but also deepened Mark's loneliness. Nights were the hardest, when echoes of laughter and love were pulled away like a curtain, leaving behind only silence. Mark fought to provide a life for Tommy, yet longed for the warmth of companionship he once knew. As Maplewood Community Day approached, Mark's heart raced with reluctance and dread. With balloons drifting high above and families gathering around, he felt like an outsider in his own town. "Come on, Dad, let's go," Tommy pleaded, his eyes wide with hope that sparked in Mark's chest. So with a heavy heart and weary feet, Mark volunteered, hoping the laughter of others might ignite something within him, something he had long lost. And then they appeared, 3 little tornadoes of energy whirling into his life. The triplet girls, Sophie, Mia, and Lila, were a whirlwind of smiles, mischief, and endless chatter, their laughter ringing like sweet music through his ears. They played games, tossing colorful beanbags at the festival. As the afternoon sun washed gold across the town square, Mark somehow found himself laughing too. "Be our dad," Sophie whispered as they played ring toss, her innocent request wrapping around his heart like a gentle embrace. It tugged at something buried deep within him, a flicker of warmth in the fog of isolation. Mark, overwhelmed, felt a spark of purpose ignite. The girls giggled, their joy cutting through his tough exterior and reaching the depths of his weary soul. Yet that light was quickly overshadowed by the chatter of the townsfolk. Whispers fluttered through the crowd like moths drawn to a flame. "Who does he think he is?" the gossip would say, judgment heavy on the air about a single father stepping outside his boundaries. With every visit to dance recitals and soccer games, Mark straddled a line between 2 worlds, each demanding his attention. His heart pounded as he attempted to balance the responsibilities of work while nurturing his newfound connection to the triplets. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As kindness blossomed, a shadow loomed larger. Their father's instability crept closer, thirsty to disrupt the love and laughter Mark had come to cherish. Just when he thought he had found his footing, a crisis struck. This ghost from the past threatened the girls, and it triggered a battle within him. Standing at a crossroads, Mark felt the weight of his choices. What did it mean to be a father? His protective instinct raged against the backdrop of societal pressures. His heart ached, but amid the struggle, something inside him shifted. Resilience began to take root. Just as he braced himself to confront his fears, an unforeseen event unfolded, leaving him breathless and poised on the brink of profound transformation. What would he do next? Only time would reveal the echoes of love that would guide his footsteps. The sun hung lower the next day, casting a warm orange hue over Maplewood, but it felt like a storm was brewing in Mark's heart. He watched Tommy laughing with the triplets from afar, their carefree merriment enveloping them like the softest of blankets. Yet with each peal of laughter, Mark also felt a tightening in his chest, echoing the weight of impending conflict. The shadows were gathering again, and this time they felt closer to home. That afternoon, while the kids played tag, Mark noticed a figure emerging from the tree line, a tall man with an unkempt beard and wild eyes. Instinct kicked in, and Mark's pulse quickened as he recognized the girl's father, a man he had only heard whispers about. The townsfolk spoke of him with disdain, citing reckless behavior and erratic moods. But fear turned into determination as Mark stepped forward, heart boiling with protectiveness. "Hey, you!" Mark shouted, his voice steady. The man halted mid-step and narrowed his eyes, confused and slightly aggressive. Mark swallowed hard, ready to confront the consequences of his growing desire to shield the girls from the chaos their father represented. "You can't just come around here. If you're trying to see your daughters, you need to do it the right way." The man scoffed, a sharp sound that cut through the summer air. "Who do you think you are, some hero?" His words dripped with disbelief, contempt flickering in his eyes. "I'm someone who cares," Mark replied, his voice firm yet calm. The situation felt electric, sparking the need for confrontation, but also bringing clarity to his purpose. Those girls deserve better than this uncertainty. As their voices rose, the laughter of Tommy and the triplets turned to hushed whispers. Sophie, Mia, and Lila froze mid-game, eyes darting from their father to the unfamiliar man. Mark's heart sank as he saw the confusion on their faces. Did they understand the gravity of this moment? "Caring doesn't mean you can play the dad card," the man sneered, stepping closer, his presence threatening. "You think just because you've spent a few days with them, you can waltz in and take my place?" Mark's hands clenched into fists at his side. "I'm not trying to replace you, but for their sake you need to get your life together. They are at risk because you're not stable. I won't let them suffer because of your choices." The man's laughter echoed, bitter and harsh. "You're just like everyone else thinking they know better. You don't know what it's like to be a real father." Deep down, Mark felt the reality of that statement. They were both flawed men navigating the heavy waters of fatherhood, but that truth only fueled his resolve. "Maybe not," he said, eyes locked on his rival, "but I know what it means to fight for the kids you love." Behind him, Tommy had moved closer, clutching at Sophie's small hand. The trio of girls stood rooted behind their dad, their gazes alternating between Mark and the man they barely recognized. Their little faces mirrored fear and confusion, and it twisted something inside of him. Protecting them had to come first, no matter the cost. As the confrontation simmered, Mark realized that this moment would define everything. Would he remember himself, the man who had been lost for so long, or would he emerge a figure of strength, a protector capable of breaking through the fog that had suffocated him? What happens next, he wondered, glancing at the girls. Will I become the father they need? As he faced the storm in front of him, Mark took a deep breath, bracing for the answer. The man stepped closer, his eyes flickering with something like rage but also vulnerability. It was a dangerous combination. Mark stood firm, heart thundering in his chest, reminding himself of the girls behind him. Their safety hinged on his bravery. "Don't think you can talk to me like that," the man growled, each word laced with threat. "You don't know me or what I've been through." Mark took a step forward, closing the distance, his confidence rising from somewhere deep. "And you don't know me," he said, voice steady. "But I know those girls need someone real in their lives, not someone who vanishes into the trees." The man's laughter morphed into a snarl. "You think you can be their hero? You can't just swoop in and act like you're dad of the year. It doesn't work that way." But Mark refused to back down. "Then let me ask you something. When's the last time you spent time with them? When's the last time you showed them you care?" As the words left his mouth, Mark realized they weren't just a challenge. They were a plea. Behind him, the triplets were whispering softly, looking at their father with wide eyes. He caught a glimpse of their worry, a carousel of emotions playing across their small faces. They were scared, of their dad, of this stranger. He needed to give them hope, a lighthouse in this brewing storm. Suddenly, Lila stepped forward, her hand still gripping Sophie's. "Daddy," she said, voice trembling, "we just want you to be okay." Those simple words hung in the air, palpable and powerful. Mark felt a wave of longing wash over him. They didn't want a father who was perfect, just one who cared enough to stay. It was all any child needed. "Look," Mark said, softer now. "You're right. I can never replace you, but I can try to be someone they can lean on, a friend maybe. And if you're willing to fight for them too, Maybe there's a way for us both to be in their lives. The man stilled, jaw clenched but eyes shifting, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. Mark held on to that moment, hoping for clarity, a sliver of understanding under the tumult of emotions. "I just want what's best for them," Mark added, feeling the heaviness in his heart. "They deserve better than to feel lost or afraid. Can we work together for them?" The tension in the air shifted slightly, a fragile thread of possibility stretching between them. For a moment, the wildness in the man's eyes softened, revealing a man caught in the web of his struggles, perhaps yearning to change. But before anything could take shape, Tommy spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of innocence. "We just want to play. To be happy." It was a child's simple, honest need, piercing through the thick veil of adult complexities. Mark felt the emotions swell again. This battle was bigger than just him and the girl's father. It was about their happiness, their childhood free from the shadows of uncertainty. The girls began to huddle closer together, looking at their father with trepidation. Mark could see the flickers of hope mingling with fear in their eyes, and he knew they were trying to decipher this moment, their lives balancing precariously on the edge of love and uncertainty. The man hesitated, taking a step back, his complicated emotions battling inside him. A storm wasn't just brewing, he was part of it too. "Maybe," he whispered, almost to himself. "I could try." Mark's heart raced. Was this the turning point? Would it be possible for them to forge a new path together in the light of their children's wishes? As he registered the man's uncertainty, Mark hoped this was merely the beginning of something profound, something that could heal not just the girls but also the fractured man standing in front of him. What would happen next? Would the man find the strength to step up? Would they all come together to rewrite their story? The tension hung thick as the sunset painted the sky, promising both change and the promise of a new dawn. The silence stretched, filled only with the distant sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds. As everyone held their breath, the man seemed to shrink before their eyes, the weight of his past heavy on his shoulders. Mark could feel the girls' eyes on him, their wide gazes filled with cautious hope. He wanted to believe this could be the moment. "Listen," Mark said, his voice cutting through the stillness. "You have a chance to show them what it means to fight for family. You don't have to do it alone. We can figure this out together." The father, caught in his own turbulent thoughts, stared at the ground as if he could find the answers buried in the dirt. "I don't know if I can change," he muttered, the shadows deepening in his features. "I've messed up so many times." Mark stepped closer. "You can start by being here, by showing them they matter. It's the small things that count. A game of catch, a bedtime story, just being present." The man's brow furrowed, a mixture of doubt and longing in his eyes. "Can I really be what they need? I've let them down too much." "They need to see you try," Mark urged. "It's not about being perfect, it's about being there. They love you. That's a start." Lila, sensing the emotional tide, squeezed Sophie's hand tighter. "We just want to play, Daddy, please," she pleaded, her young voice breaking slightly. "We miss you when you go away." The words landed like a soft punch in the father's gut. He swayed, visibly shaken, the emotional surge breaking some of his barriers, a crack in the hardened facade that life had built around him. Maybe if I try to be around more," he whispered, the glimmer of possibility starting to light up his eyes. Hope flickered in Mark's heart. "That's all it takes. Just take that first step. Let them remember the joy, not just the fear." The man's shoulders sagged under the weight of his thoughts, yet he seemed to be warming up to the idea. A change was around the corner. It wasn't just a dream, it could be reality. He raised his gaze, and for the first time Mark saw a hint of determination beneath the uncertainty. "I'll give it a shot," the father said, a slight tremor in his voice. "I'll try." A cheer erupted from the triplets, each one leaping forward, their joy melting the tension that had wrapped around them like a thick blanket. They rushed forward, wrapping their little arms around their father. Mark smiled, relief flooding his senses. He stood back, watching as the girls pulled their dad down to their level, their laughter ringing like chimes in the soft wind. It was bittersweet. Would this patchwork of joy last? Would the man stick around, or retreat again when things got hard. For now, though, the moment felt victorious. Mark couldn't help but feel a swell of admiration for the father. It took courage to confront his demons, to open up, and yield to the vulnerable parts of himself. He wanted to believe they were on the right path, hand in hand toward healing, but as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting shadows on the laughter, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. What if the father's past comes back to haunt him? Would he falter when faced with his own mistakes? As joy hung in the air, darkness loomed just beyond the horizon, leaving Mark to wonder how long this fragile peace would last. The storm was calmed for now, but would it return? The laughter rang out, bright and innocent, weaving through the trees like a melody. For a moment everything felt perfect. The father knelt down, enveloped in his daughter's love, their giggles washing over him like sunlight breaking through clouds. But even in the warmth, Mark felt a tight knot in his stomach. Would this fragile joy hold, or would the darkness come creeping back? As the triplets played, Mark moved to the side, keeping an eye on the father and his girls. Every laugh, every shout, was a reminder of what hung in the balance. The father's tentative smile was infectious, yet Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was just beginning. Suddenly the father stood, a new spark in his eyes as he turned to the girls. "How about we play a game of tag?" The girls squealed with delight and bounced back into action, darting away like fireflies in the dusk. The father's laugh was different, lighter, as if years of weight had shifted off his shoulders. Mark couldn't help but let himself feel hopeful. Yet just as quickly as the hope bloomed, shadows began to stir in the back of his mind. Mark's gaze shifted to the edge of the park, where a figure emerged. A familiar silhouette. It brought back memories not just for him, but for the father as well. It was his brother Jake, someone from their shared past riddled with bad choices and haunting echoes. Mark's heart raced as he watched Jake approach, his brow deep with concern. "You need to leave," Mark shouted, the urgency slipping out before he could contain it. But the father was already turning, awareness of the situation clawing at his expression. "Jake!" the father called out. For a moment the world fell silent again, the air thickening with unspoken words. "Man, what's going on?" Jake asked, looking from the girls to his brother. His tone was defensive, but Mark sensed a flicker of worry beneath the bravado. "I'm trying to make things right here," the father said, stepping forward, his voice steadier than Mark expected. "With the girls?" Jake's stare hardened. "You can't just waltz back into their lives. What if you mess this up again?" Mark felt the tension rise like a tide, crashing against desires and fears. The laughter of the girls felt distant now, replaced by the unease thrumming through the air. "Everyone deserves a second chance," Mark interjected, stepping closer to the father. "But he's going to need support. This isn't easy, not for any of us." The father's eyes flickered, torn between his brother's hard edges and his own burgeoning resolve. "I'm ready to do better, Jake. I just need to try." Mark sensed the sharp inhale from the girls, the confusion that clouded their innocent joy like a sudden storm cloud. Would they understand? Would they still play tag once they realized the tension? "Let's give him that chance," Mark urged, his heart racing. "We're here now. The girls deserve to see their father fight for them." A small voice broke through, soft and clear. "Daddy?" Lila's bright eyes searched her father's face, her innocence a stark contrast to the grown-up struggles swirling around them. "Are you coming to play?" Her question cut through the thick air, pulling all attention back to the joy they had just felt moments ago. The father's expression softened, that love sparking recognition deep within him. "Yeah," he said, his voice carrying a new, trembling strength. "I'm coming." For now the laughter resumed, a little hesitant, but there. Still Mark's worries lingered. Jake's presence was a dark cloud hovering above this fragile moment. How long before the past crashed back, ready to sweep everything away? As the girls chased their father, joy bubbling once again, Mark's heart ached with uncertainty. Would the newly formed bond between father and daughters withstand the storm brewing just beyond sight? He could only watch, feeling the ground shifting beneath them all. Would they weather this together, or would Jake's influence tear them apart? Time would tell, but for now, the question loomed like a storm on the horizon, waiting to unleash. As the game of tag kicked back into life, laughter soared once more, weaving through the park like threads in a tapestry. The father's smile widened, pure and beaming, as the triplets chased him, their giggles intertwining with the rustle of leaves above. Yet, even among the joy, the unease bubbled beneath the surface like water threatening to overflow. Mark shifted nervously, glancing at Jake, who had taken a half-step back but hadn't left completely. He looked torn. Part of him wanted to break through the wall of happiness, yet a deeper instinct fought to protect. "You can't stay, man. Not here," Mark pressed again, keeping his voice low but firm. "I know how it looks," Jake replied, frustration seeping through his words. "But he needs to hear the truth, or he'll just repeat the past." Mark couldn't help but admire Jake's loyalty, but the last thing they needed was a past that seemed to echo louder than the laughter around them. "What good is bringing up the past if it shatters the moment?" he countered, glancing back at the father who had finally found his footing. The girls squealed as their father pretended to trip, falling dramatically to the grass, and for a flash all worries seemed to vanish. Mark's heart swelled at the sight. Could moments of bliss be enough to construct a new foundation? Or were they just placeholders for what was ultimately bound to crumble? "Lila, you're it!" one of the other girls shouted, and Mark turned just in time to see Lila dart off, a cascade of golden curls bouncing as she ran. The father sprang to his feet, the playful energy radiating like sunlight, rising in a new day. "Not for long," he teased, launching into a half-hearted chase. But Jake's presence loomed like a specter, threatening to taint the joy with disruption. "If he really wants to change," Jake began hesitantly, "he needs to acknowledge what's behind him. The past is messy. Those little girls will get hurt if he stumbles again." The last words hung in the air, heavy. Mark felt his pulse quicken. Was Jake right? Did the father truly comprehend the weight of temptation lingering at the edges of his resolve? And what about now, Jake? What about the chance for them to see him as something new? A flicker of doubt crossed Jake's face, but he shook it off. "You're putting too much faith in him." That struck deep. Mark clenched his jaw, aware that faith and hope were fragile threads easily broken, but doubt could be a poison too. As the game continued, the girls shrieked with delight. Lila, wearing the biggest smile, reached out to her father, who scooped her up mid-run, spinning her in the air. In that moment, the bond appeared unshakable, but Mark felt the precariousness of it. All it would take was one wrong step, one moment of weakness, and that joy could snatch away like fog in the morning. Mark swallowed hard as he watched. "You need to stay close," he urged Jake, tapping into their shared history. "Don't let your brother go back into darkness. He needs a reminder of what he stands to lose." "I get it," Jake muttered, his gaze shifting from the father to the girls. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. But what if those memories are already too strong? In that moment, Mark caught sight of Lila again, a sparkle of light in her eyes that seemed to defy everything. The girls needed their father, needed him to be present, and from this moment forward, not just physically but emotionally too. "Every person can choose to rewrite their story," Mark said softly, the truth steadying him. "All it takes is one commitment to change." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the park, Mark held his breath, feeling as if everything was suspended in time. Would Jake settle into the role of protector instead of judge? The weight of uncertainty settled heavily now. What came next would determine whether laughter or silence would prevail. Yet across the park, laughter soared again, teasing just out of reach, while a hint of darkness lingered, a reminder that joy could easily slip away. Would those echoes of the past pull the father back, or could he forge something real? The tension crackled in the air, and Mark couldn't shake the feeling that a decision was looming, one that could change everything. What would that choice be? Mark's breath hitched as the laughter swirled around him, but his core felt icy, knotting tighter with each second. He sensed Jake's internal battle raging, a storm of loyalty and fear brewing just beneath the surface. Their shared past loomed over them, heavy with memories, but right now the need for action eclipsed everything. "Look, man, just talk to him," Mark urged, forcing the words out. "If you think he's on the edge, tell him. Don't let the moment pass." Jake hesitated, his brows knitting together in doubt. The father bent down to pick up Lila, who squealed in delight, and in that brief moment, Mark wondered if he was right or merely delaying the inevitable. "What if it's too late?" Jake mumbled, his eyes fixed on the joyful scene. "Then at least you tried." The sun was now kissing the horizon, painting the sky with deep oranges and purples. The park transformed under its glow, laughter mixing with the sounds of crickets awakening for the evening. Yet the scene felt fragile, like the delicate thread of a spider's web glistening with dew. Mark's gaze flickered back to the girls, their innocent joy reflecting in their father's eyes. He wanted so desperately to believe that this wasn't just an illusion, that they weren't one mistake away from shattering everything. You're his brother. You owe it to him, to them, to do something. The laughter faded as the girls gathered around their father, pleading for another round of tag. His smile stretched wide, the pride evident in his posture as he looked at each of them in turn. Mark felt a swell of hope mixed with fear. What if this moment truly was the beginning of something new? Finally, Jake clenched his fists, the tension leaving his shoulders just a bit. "Fine. But you're with me," he said, steel creeping back into his voice. Mark nodded, the little victory reigniting his spirit. With a shared glance, they swayed together like a synchronized breath, stepping closer to the family portrait painted by laughter and joy. "Hey, buddy," Jake called, breaking through the joyous shouts racing through the park. The father halted, turning toward the sound of his brother's voice. "Yeah?" He grinned, still sparkling with the warmth of the moment, blissfully unaware of what was about to transpire. Mark's heart raced as he watched the flicker of confusion wash over the man's face, caught between his joy and the weight of a conversation that could reshape everything. Jake held out a hand, a gesture echoing years of brotherhood, of honesty and challenge. "We need to talk," he said, voice steady now. The father's smile faltered, uncertainty dancing in his eyes. Mark felt the air grow thick with the unsaid, the fear and hope meshing into an electric pulse. "Is everything okay?" he asked, the lightness in his tone now wavering. Mark positioned himself by Jake, silently promising to support him, to anchor both men as they teetered on the verge of chaos or resolution. "It's important," he added, feeling the weight of their world shift. As they walked toward the father, laughter echoed behind them, taunting and bittersweet. Would this path lead to the kind of truth that enabled growth? Or would it summon ghosts that pushed everyone away? The moment felt infinite, a tightrope balancing their futures. Mark held his breath, desperate to see where the next step would lead them. Everything depended on honesty, but were they ready to face what lay beneath? And as Jake prepared to bare his soul, Mark felt the air crackle with potential, a stirring that could either build bridges or tear them down completely. Would the truth bring healing or heartache? Each second felt heavy, and the stakes had never felt higher. Jake's heart raced as he stood, inexplicably anchored by the gravity of the moment. The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows across the grass, and for a heartbeat, he was struck by the beauty of it all, the joyful laughter of his nieces, the buzz of nearby families enjoying their evenings, but reality pulled at him like a lead weight. "Why now?" Jake's voice broke the surface of the tender scene. "I mean, why wait? You've kept so much bottled up." Each word tethered him more firmly to the moment. The father shifted his weight uneasily, glancing at the girls who were still caught up in their playful world, unaware of the stirring storm before them. "Look, Jake, if it's about me being too strict, or maybe too—" He hesitated, his breath hitching slightly as if the admission itself hurt. "Too much of a mess? No," Jake interrupted gently but firmly, knowing what he had to say could cut deep. "It's about you vanishing. You're here, but not really. Everything you're pushing away. The girls—" He gestured, and despair clouded the father's face. "They deserve more than just your presence, they deserve you." The father blinked rapidly, and for a fleeting moment Mark thought he saw vulnerability, an openness that was both painful and beautiful. It ripped at the edges of his heart. Would the man realize what the girls needed wasn't just a father figure, but someone ready to engage with them fully? Mark swallowed hard, his gaze firmly set on Jake's brother. They're scared too. You've been in your head for so long, it's like the lights have gone out. Another silence settled. The cicadas hummed louder, and the laughter of children became a haunting melody in the backdrop, one that contrasted sharply with their solemn tones. "Why can't I get it right?" the father finally murmured, shame layering his words. Mark took a step closer, the urge to comfort strong. "Because you've been fighting everything alone. You've been holding all this weight and just pretending it's fine." Jake stiffened, eyes locked onto their brother, searching for a glimmer of recognition in the haze of emotion etched across the man's face. "You can't keep hiding. Not from yourself, and definitely not from them. We've all been drowning in our own fears." A faint flicker of understanding darted across the man's eyes, but doubt lingered as he glanced back at the girls. They need a dad, not whatever this is. In that instant, a small voice broke through the tension, rising above the low hum of the park. "Daddy, come play." Lila's bright tone pierced through like sunlight, effortlessly igniting innocence and joy in the air around them. A wave of guilt washed over the father, and Mark's heart ached as he witnessed the sharp contrast. Here was a man who could give the world to these little girls, yet all the walls he had built threatened to drown them in shadows. "Listen, no one expects perfection," Mark said, feeling time slip. "What matters is that you show up even on your worst days. You're human, and that's what they need to see." The father seemed to deflate a little, the weight of the discussion pulling his shoulders down as if admitting defeat. Can I be the dad they need?" he asked, more to himself than to anyone else. And at that moment, hope flickered like a fragile flame, still wavering against the dark winds of uncertainty. Mark exchanged a determined look with Jake, both finding strength in each other. They had laid the truth bare. Now it was time to wait and see whether the father would embrace it or slip away into the shadows once more. But as he stood there, caught in the moment of impending resolution, Lila and her sisters hurried closer, eyes shining with innocence and eager expectation. "Daddy, play with us, please!" Their tiny hands reached out, one of them grasping his finger, pulling him gently towards the laughter, the light. Jake gripped Mark's shoulder, his breath caught between panic and anticipation. They both knew the father stood at a crossroad. Would he step into their world or retreat back into isolation? And just like that, the air thickened again, heavy with expectation. They awaited the choice that could change everything. Would he reach out, or would he let them slip away? The father hesitated, caught between the radiant smiles of his daughters and the shadows that had cloaked him for so long. The sound of their laughter wrapped around him, tugging at something deep within. His eyes drifted from Lila's pleading gaze to the other girls' eager faces, each waiting for a signal, a glimmer of hope that their dad was still in there somewhere. Taking a shaky breath, he crouched down, the grass bending beneath his weight. "You want me to play?" The question came out almost as a whisper, filled with disbelief. "Yes, we want you to be our superhero," Lila exclaimed, her innocence shining like a beacon, illuminating the darkness he didn't know he was surrounded by. Another wave of shame crashed over him, but this time it felt different. It was raw and honest, urging him forward instead of holding him back. "What if I'm not the hero you think I am?" he said. The words hung in the air, a challenge he had long accepted, but was never asked to confront directly. Lila crossed her arms, her brow wrinkling in thought. "You don't have to be perfect. Just be my daddy." Her little hands reached out again, fingers grasping at the fabric of his jeans, pulling him closer. The father's heart clenched. "Just being your daddy," he echoed, testing the words, feeling their weight and hope all at once. His chest felt lighter, the darkness wavering like a candle caught in the breeze. As he tried to step back into joy, Jake and Mark stood close, watching, holding their breath. This was it. Would he dive in or drift away? With a deep inhale, the father held Lila's gaze, then turned to her sisters, who mirrored her eager anticipation. "Okay," he said, his voice cracking. "Let's play." A rush of delight spread across the three girls' faces, and they squealed in unison. "Yay!" Their tiny bodies bounced with excitement like the sunlight that danced across the park. Jake relaxed, his shoulders releasing the tension he'd held for too long. Mark felt the weight of hope thrum in the air, eager and alive, as the father stood to his full height. He swayed slightly, as if the act of initiating was a deft balancing act, yet determination flickered in his eyes. The girls chirped happily and began running toward the swing set, pulling him along. He stumbled briefly, but gathered himself, his heart racing, this time from exhilaration instead of fear. "Don't run too far," he called, his voice carrying a warmth he hadn't felt in ages. The world around him blurred into an array of colors, laughter, and sun-drenched joy. For the first time, he felt the possibility of connection, of redemption, not just for himself but for the girls who needed him to step up. As he pushed them higher, their squeals of delight filled the air, swirling around him like a jubilant song. He realized, perhaps, he had a lot to learn, but this moment was a first step, a decision he'd made to embrace the light. Yet still, the shadows lingered at the edges of his mind, a gentle reminder of the weight he carried. Could he truly keep this momentum? Would the struggle ultimately become easier, or would the darkness try to pull him back in? As he watched the girls soar into the air, he felt a flutter of something raw and unfamiliar, courage. The sun dipped lower, and with it, the thrill of transformation lingered, the momentum of a new chapter just beginning to unfold. Would he continue to rise with them, or risk faltering back into the safety of his past? His heart raced again, but now it was laced with hope. The game had just started, and he had no idea what awaited them all. But change felt closer than ever. The laughter faded as the evening approached, leaving behind a tantalizing question. Would he conquer his fears and fully step into this role as their dad? The sun dipped low, casting an amber glow across Maplewood. Laughter still sparkled in the air as the triplets swung higher, their giggles blending with the soft rustle of leaves. Mark watched, his heart warmed and heavy. The father had taken that first leap, and it made every anxious moment worthwhile. But beneath this surface of joy, Mark sensed the fragile nature of their newfound happiness. The girls reveled in their father's presence, each swing pushing them higher. But Mark's instincts whispered caution. Shadows loomed near, uncertainty had a way of creeping back, and the past was a persistent ghost. "Daddy, higher!" Lila squealed, her curls bouncing with every push. The father complied, but Mark saw the flicker of worry in his eyes. That euphoria was new and raw. Would he hold on to it? Moments passed, and for a brief while everything felt perfect. The connection fractured the silence of Mark's loneliness. The laughter echoed brighter than any words he could muster. If the girls could bring light to their father's heart, could there be a chance for lasting change? But then in a heartbeat, the world shifted. "It shouldn't be this easy," Jake murmured beside Mark, voice steeped in apprehension. He watched, concern etched in his features as the father embraced the humor and playfulness. "What if he faints under pressure?" Mark turned to Jake, understanding his hesitation. "This is a start," he replied in a low voice, "but it requires vigilance. We can't put away the concerns. We have to face them." Jake nodded slowly as their eyes drifted toward the father and triplets, who were darting around in a game of tag. Yet even as laughter burst from the girls, Mark felt the undercurrent of doubt pull at him. As the game continued, the father's smile illuminated everything around him. Mark took a breath, the tension still sharp. He wanted to hope, but wasn't sure if it was wise. Was this too good to be true? What if tomorrow came with its challenges? Challenges the father wasn't prepared to meet. Then something remarkable happened. Under the soft evening sky, the father pulled Lila close, her small frame enveloped in his arms. "You girls deserve a dad who will always be there, and I promise I'll do my best to figure this out." Tears burned in Mark's eyes, raw emotional tears that tasted of joy and release. It wasn't just about keeping promises. It was about seeing that dim light spark and kindling it into a flame. "Do you believe him, Mark?" Jake's voice cut through the emotion swirling inside him. There it was again, the uncertainty that kept tugging at their hopes. "I want to," he replied, finding stability in the weight of honesty. "But it's going to take all of us. He needs a support system, and we can't turn our backs if darkness tries to creep back in." Mark's words hung in the air, a reminder that although laughter rang out, shadows would always lurk nearby, waiting for moments of fragility. "Daddy, you have to catch me!" Sophie dragged her father's attention back to their play. He laughed, taking off after her, and in that moment, amid their joys, Mark felt hope swell within him. It wasn't wrong to hold on to optimism. Change, however slow it may be, began with every sincere promise made in the twilight. As the evening darkened, Mark recognized the pattern of life. The dance between shadow and light was constant, and they could choose how to respond. With every swing and shout of affection, the father seemed to shed layers of the past. He was becoming visible, emerging not just as a presence, but as a true parent. And as distant stars winked into existence, Mark held his breath, trusting the father, a man who had once stood lost, was finding himself again. "Let's keep this momentum together," Mark proposed to Jake, who nodded in quiet agreement. "For the girl's sake," Jake smiled, his expression softening. "This is their journey. We're just here to guide them through." The air felt electric with possibility, the thought that love could conquer fear, that vulnerability could lead to strength. But as Mark observed the father and his growing joy, he also remembered that real growth comes from facing fears head-on. The past would always knock at the door. As the laughter faded into the gentle lull of night, Mark made a silent vow. He would remain vigilant, ready to support, ready to remind the father why he needed to step into this role fully. It was time to march toward the dawn of a new story, where shadows could coexist with light, and where the echoes of past mistakes didn't have to define a future. "Together," he whispered, as the trio of triplets giggled and called for their dad to join them for another game. Hope flickered within him fiercely, a promise he dared to keep alive. They would navigate this labyrinth together, one day at a time. And with that resolve, he knew they would rise not just in laughter but in love, stronger than ever before. As he watched them play, a wave of pride washed over him. This was their chance, real, messy, beautiful, and it was just the beginning. Remember this feeling, this moment. Now is the time for action. If you connected with this story, make sure to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories filled with hope and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help these powerful stories reach hearts that need them. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your voice matters. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this magical journey of love and redemption. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Your commitment helps bring more stories to life.